Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to BD Views. I am Mursaleen Siddiqui. Today we look at a startling new report from the BRAC Institute of Governance and Development, or BIGD. It tells a story of high hopes and harsh realities. After the July uprising, Bangladesh felt like a new country. There was a sense that everything would change. But the data shows that the honeymoon phase is over. Today, 51% of the people believe that the state must be reformed before any election takes place. However, the window for that reform is closing fast. The interim government, led by the chief advisor, came to power with a massive mandate. They had the students behind them. They had the public's trust. But a year and a half later, BIGD describes this government as an equilibrium of the weak. What does that mean? It means the government has become a referee between conflicting powers instead of a leader. They are reacting to pressure rather than driving change. Initially, 71% of people thought the country was on the right political track. The number has now crashed to just 42%. Confidence in the economy has also dropped from 60% to 45%. The people are feeling the pinch and they are losing faith. The biggest culprit identified in this decline is not a political party. It is something much more dangerous: the deep state. What is the deep state? It is a network of unelected officials and bureaucrats. These are the people who hold the pens and sign the files. They stay in power regardless of who wins an election. BIGD's report is clear. The bureaucracy has launched a silent but effective resistance against reform. Every time the interim government tries to change the system, the deep state pushes back. They protect their own interests. They protect the old ways of doing business. Sadly, the interim government has often retreated in the face of this pressure. While the government managed to handle political opposition from parties like the BNP, it proved helpless against the iron triangle of the bureaucracy. The chief advisor has been criticized for being indecisive. The report suggests he changed his mind too often. He made promises of big changes, but ended up compromising with the students, the political parties, and most importantly, the bureaucrats. This weakness has allowed the deep state to dig in its heels. There is a massive fear now. If the state is not reformed before the next election, the bureaucracy will simply take over the process. They will use their power to stop any future democratic transformation. The reforms we dreamed of in July 2024 might become nothing more than a footnote in history. While the deep state controls the halls of power, the streets have seen a rise in mobocracy. This is one of the darkest parts of the last year and a half. Since August 2024, nearly 300 people have been killed in lynchings or mob violence. In 2025 alone, 197 people lost their lives to angry crowds. This violence has no central leader. It is driven by revenge, religious extremism, and a desire to show off new power. BIGD's survey shows that 80% of people are worried about this mob violence. Women are especially vulnerable, with 62% expressing fear for their safety. Speaking of women, the report highlights a tragic irony. Women were at the front lines of the July uprising. They risked their lives for new Bangladesh. Yet, in the new state-building process, they have been pushed to the sidelines. Conservative groups on social media have bullied the government into silence. The Women's Reform Commission has been largely ineffective because the government lacks the courage to stand up to radical voices. We are also seeing a shift in the political landscape. Secular and left-wing parties are fading. Islamic parties, particularly Jamaat-e-Islami, are emerging as a powerful, independent third force. They are no longer just allies to the big parties, they are major players. This shift is changing the very soul of Bangladeshi politics. So where do we go from here? The BIGD report warns that if reforms are left for after the election, it will lead to a disaster. It will create a permanent conflict between the new parliament and the people on the streets. The next elected government cannot afford to be weak. It must be bold. To reflect the will of the people, the next administration must be ready to take a hard line. They cannot simply sit in office. They must actively dismantle the elements of the deep state that block progress. The bureaucracy must be purged of those who prioritize their own power over the public good. This isn't just about changing names, it's about changing the system of accountability. If the next government remains a hostage to the bureaucrats, the 2024 uprising will have been in vain. The revolution was won by three forces: the urban poor, industrial workers, and students. These people didn't fight for a change of faces. They fought for a change of destiny. The next government has a choice: stand with the deep state and maintain the status quo, or stand with the people and finish the reforms. The world is watching. The Bangladeshi people are waiting. The time for compromise is over. The time for iron-willed leadership has begun. The dream of a new Bangladesh hangs in the balance. As the deep state tightens its grip and the interim government's resolve wavers, the responsibility falls on the next elected leaders. They must choose. Will they serve the bureaucracy or the brave people who fought for change? The window for reform is closing. Action must be swift and bold. That's all for today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching BD Views. If you find our reports insightful, please subscribe to our channel. Allah Hafiz.